Hey class, picking up where we left off on the last video, we are now looking at a three-dimensional view, the default 3D view. We can look at our project browser and find that 3D view bold here because again that is the active view. We're looking at this in 3D because we want to verify that what we drew in a 2D view is exactly what we expected. Because one thing in Revit that is a key concept is that as we model something in a two-dimensional view, it has three-dimensional consequences. And it is very easy to create something that you did not intend if you're not paying attention to the third dimension, which you can't see. So I always go back after I've created something and take a look at it in 3 dimensions to make sure that this is in fact what we intended. The other thing I want to point out right now is that we have these default levels showing up in this view, and I don't care to see them in my 3D view. I don't find them very useful, and I don't want to see them in my final product. So each view has particular view settings. I can change if these appear or not in this particular view, and that is only affected on this view. So I can hide these particular objects in this view, and it only affects this view. I do that by selecting it, right-clicking, and saying, and coming down here to hide in view. Now I could hide this element, but as you can see, that only hides one of these, and I want to do both of them. I want to hide all levels in this particular view. So what I do is I right-click, hide in view, and I do that by category. So it hides everything within the levels category. And you can see that they both go away. The next thing I want to do is I want to create my first floor. So I'm going to go back to level 1, view, and here's where I pick up that method again, or I start that method, that creation pattern, that creation method, whatever you want to call it. So the first part of that is knowing what I want to create. In this case, it's a floor. The floor is located on the architecture ribbon, so I click that tab and I go to floor. My context sensitive ribbon comes up along with my options bar. The next part of my method is checking to make sure my type is correct. Again, for this introduction project, I'm going to use the default types. My constraints in this case, the floor is going to be at level 1. That's what I want. No offset, and I'm good to go here. This, again, pretty much the same that's here. I don't want any offset. This I'm going to ignore for now. Then I come to my context sensitive modify menu, and I have different tools to draw this floor. For this intro project, I'm going to use a rectangle, and I'm going to simply click on the outermost corners of my walls to create a floor that goes out to the exterior edge of my walls. I then hit the Finish Edit Mode green check mark, and I've created my floor. And there's the entire creation method that I talk about. Again, I always like to go to my 3D view and make sure that what I created in a two-dimensional view is what I expected, a floor at level 1 below my walls. Now I want to create my second floor. So instead of going back to level 1, I am going to open level 2, view. Now, you will see level 1, but it will be dimmed. It will be gray. Now, the reason that I can see that is because in my architectural template, the settings are set up so that I have an underlay to this particular view. So I'm in the level 2 view without anything selected. The properties palette is showing the properties for this view. And if I come down here to underlay, you can see that my underlay is level 1. So it's showing a dimmed version of level 1 on level 2. And that's so that I can align things at level 2 to things that are on level 1. What I want to do now is create the second floor. The second floor I'm going to create to the inside face of the wall. So again, notice the method, architecture ribbon, floor, check and make sure that my type selector is showing the type I want. This is correct, generic 12. Check my properties, my constraints, make sure that they're correct. They are. Choose my method for drawing, and then draw the element. And again, I'm going to the inside face of the wall for my second floor. Notice my constraint is level 2, so the top of this floor is going to be at level 2. I hit the check mark button. If this dialog comes up, 99.9% of the time you are going to say no. Sometimes you will create things and Revit will say, hey, I can do this for you. Generally, you want to control doing everything in Revit, so don't allow it to do things on its own. So say no, I do not want things to attach to other things without knowing exactly what I'm doing. So let's say no. Check that out in 3D, and I can see that I in fact do have a floor that goes that is set at level 2. The next step in creating my building is drawing or modeling the second floor. Now, and I don't mean the floor, I mean the actual story. I guess I should say the second story. I could come in here and I could draw walls on top of these at this level that go up to a higher level. But actually what I want to do is I simply want to extend these first floor walls up higher. The problem is the only way to do that now is by changing the properties to be unconnected. And like I said, I always like my walls to be connected to something. So what I need to do is create a new level. I need to create the roof level. So I am going to go into an elevation mode for that. And I'll show you why here in a second. So I'm going to go to the north elevation. Now the north elevation shows my two levels. These look like drawing symbols, right? We have a drawing symbol that says level 2. It's got the elevation marker and it tells me what elevation it's at. These are three-dimensional elements. This is the same level that I hid in my 3D view. This two-dimensional symbol is representational of my actual three-dimensional level that's in my project browser over here. So to create a new level, I am going to come up, again, notice the method. I'm going to recognize that I want to create a level. That is the category that I want to create. That is placed, or I can find that on the architecture ribbon over here in the datum panel, and I'm going to press the level button. I'm going to check and make sure that my type is correct, which it is. I'm just going to use the default. And I come and look at my options bar and it says make a plan view. And that makes sense because I want to create not only a new level, but I want to create a new plan view as well. I am going to draw it by drawing a line. You can also pick a line to create a view, but in this case I'm going to draw it. What I'm going to do is come over here so that these are all equal, or even I should say. It's going to pick up that inference. I'm going to click, come over to this side, it'll find that inference, and I'll click. Notice I did not pay that much attention to the height of the level. At this point I don't really care. So now that I have that level 3, I can come back to level 1. I can select my walls. Now, to select multiple items, I select one wall. If I want to select this wall, I have to hit Control, or hold Control, I should say, as I click on this wall. Another way that you can select all the walls is to select one, right-click, and say, Select all instances visible in view, and that will select all of my walls. Every instance of that type of generic 8-inch wall will be selected. Now I can come to my properties again, and I can see that my top constraint is still level 2. I am going to change that top constraint to level 3. I'm going to hit apply, You don't always have to hit apply. It'll eventually do it on its own, but if you want to see the results immediately, hit apply. Now we can check out our 3D view and we can see that we've extended our walls to our third level. Now we are going to go to our north elevation, and now is when we are actually going to change the height of our walls. Now you're going to say, hey, we've already we did the height by saying that we constrained them to these things. That is true. But to change the height of the walls, we change the location of the level. So what we can do here is simply click on the 10-foot number. Actually, you have to click on it twice, and we get the edit box, and we can type 9 feet - 0 inches, which is what I want my level 2 to be at. Hit enter, and it moves that. Level 3 is going to be at 18 feet. So we're going to type 18 feet, enter. And notice what happens. We don't just move the level, but because we constrained the wall top to be at level 3, it moves with the level. If I move this just dragging it, notice that the wall moves with it. So if I should ever change my design, the walls move with it. Everything in Revit is interconnected. Now what we're going to do is we are going to rename this, because this is not really a level. This is the top of our building. So we are going to click on level 3, and we're going to call this the top of wall, or TOW. And we're going to hit enter. This dialog will come up and it'll say, would you like to rename corresponding views? And we're going to say no. And you'll see what happens is that the view over here is still called level 3, but the symbol is called top of wall. This is still representative of this level. We've just kind of disconnected what they're called. And in fact, we can come over to level 3, right click on level 3 and say rename, and we're going to call that roof. So now we have level 1, level 2, and roof. Now we don't see anything here, but I'll get back to that in a second. So again, I'm going to go to my 3D view, and this is what I have at this point.